Why does Dr. Preston Cherry need to meet Jenny Wood? You're watching Just Press Record. We talked about the value of no. We talked about the choice to be weird. And we talked about why nobody likes to be shit on. There's so much here between the author of Wild Courage and the author of Wealth in the Key of Life. You're going to love this one. Jack Forehand. Let's roll some clips.
This wave of wild courage washes over me, Dr. Preston, and it pushes me out of my subway seat, essentially, and off the train. I chase to catch up with him. I tap him on the shoulder as I'm exiting the station, and I say, "Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you."
The way I see it is, okay, I got my few no's. Let's get these on out the way, right? And that means I'm closer to the yes. I know that's cliche, but that's the only way to do it.
My grandma Lila would say she was not only a bridesmaid at the age of 88 in my wedding, but she was the CEO of her financial services company until the age of 92. Her famous line was, "No is just an opening offer." And I love that.
It's the first time I've actually said this out loud, is I do have to pump myself up every day. Everybody thinks that I'm like so extrovert all the time. Yeah, you know, and I don't give all this stuff. But I do.
Weird is the courage to stand out, because within your so-called weirdness, quote unquote, lie your greatest strengths. So hone every ounce of weird you've got, because in today's modern world of 8 billion interconnected people, where people are trying to make a buck or upsell a customer or get promoted, the world is too big and competitive for anything but audacious to make a dent.
And I got that from my dad. You know, my dad is one of the most courageous person I know, because he walks into the room, he's like, "Hey, this is it. You either gonna like this or you're not."
Right. And so he just owned his flavor of weird. And I think that's fantastic.
You're watching Just Press Record right here on Cultish Creative YouTube. I'm Matt Zeigler. This is the show where I invite two people who have never met before, and you get to watch along in real time as they try and figure out who this stranger is and why I wanted them to meet. OG written version on cultishcreative.com, and let's make some introductions. This first guest, my nickname for him today, I'm going with Billy Warrants. Why? Because he's one part Billy Preston, playing the backing tracks, the psychology behind every decision we make, whether it's to let it be, to get back, or to tell our friends and family members, "Hey, don't let me down." But he's another part Warrant, and I gotta sneak this in, as in, let's be honest, he is my cherry pie. Unless you think nothing from nothing leaves nothing, he's here with me, folks. Wealth in the Key of Life author, founder and president of Concurrent. It's not Billy Warrant, it's Dr. Preston Cherry. Dr. Cherry, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I feel like James Brown. I've been brought out, handsomely. I appreciate it.
I will put the cape on you before the end of this show. Now, you're going to guess why I had to introduce you to this guest. My nickname for her today, I'm going with Two-Tone Lopez. You like this already. This is good. Two-Tone, because I'm not going to call her Tommy, but also I'm definitely making a reference to the creativity of writing on walls in rooms you're not even supposed to be in the first place. I get the feeling she's a master of courageous corporate vandalism, all in the name of a good cause. And Lopez, because isn't she just Jenny from the block? I mean, I know she's definitely Jenny running down the block, chasing her husband-to-be, and we're going to get to that story. You're going to tell it in a minute. But don't be fooled by the rocks she got. We're about to have a good time, so we had to call her in. Former Google exec, best-selling author of Wild Courage, and all-round unstoppable confidence booster, Jenny Wood. Welcome to the show.
It's happening.
All right, it is happening indeed. Now, you're going to guess why I wanted to put you together. I'm going to ask the question. I wrote it down on the back of this card. But first, Jenny, tell Preston the story of how you met your husband, or really how you accosted him on a train. What is this?
Well, it was 2011, and I'm riding the New York City subway home from work when a really good-looking guy is standing about 20 feet away from me. And I'm really taken by him. Gorgeous blue eyes, thick brown wavy hair, the whole works. Even though I want to talk to him, something holds me back. What if he's a convicted felon? What if he's married? What if 100 people stare at me on this packed train? Well, I later came to realize that underneath those questions were the fears that held me back so often in life, and the fears that hold a lot of people back. Fear of failure, fear of uncertainty, fear of judgment by others. So I sit there and I do nothing while the train passes stop after stop after stop, and life passes me by. But I'm so taken by him that I make a deal with the universe. I say if he gets off at my stop, 72nd Street, then I'll try to strike up a conversation with him. And if not, then stay la vie. Well, the universe was not on my side that day because he gets off at the next stop, which is 59th Street. But then all of a sudden, this wave of wild courage washes over me. Dr. Cherry. Is it Dr. Preston or Dr. Cherry?
We'll go with Dr. Preston. Let's
Okay.
call him Dr. Preston.
Dr. Preston. This wave of wild courage washes over me, Dr. Preston, and it pushes me out of my subway seat, essentially, and off the train. I chase to catch up with him. I tap him on the shoulder as I'm exiting the station, and I say, "Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you. You're wearing gloves, so I can't tell if you're wearing a wedding ring. But in the event that you're not married, you were on my subway, and I thought you were cute. Any chance I could give you my business card?" And then I wait for it to feel like forever, thinking this was a terrible idea. But then eventually he takes the card. He calls the next day. We go on a date a week later, and we've now been married happily for 11 years with 2 kids, 8 and 10.
It's an amazing story.
Sweet. Oh, all right. Awesome.
All right, Preston, I got to ask you this question. You heard that story. Jenny is on a train. She sees somebody. I want you to break the psychology of this down. I need a sports style play-by-play of what the hell is happening when you see something you want in life and you set rules and you start breaking rules to go after that thing.
Well,
Because if anybody could tell me the psychology, it's you.
well, at that particular time, look, I bet their heart was racing. And then also something telling you, don't do this, but you really should. Because FOMO is, I hate FOMO because you have to live with regret, right? And it's that one chance that you did not take. And sometimes, I guess it's the flight or flight. Because if you don't do what that you don't want to do, then you end up with not, 11 years of marriage and all that wonderful story, right? So it's just like having to overcome fear. I think this is what I heard. And just going out there and capturing the moment because you learned in life that if you don't, you're going to regret it. And it's like, damn, I should have done that.
Well, go ahead, Matt.
No, jump right in. So barstool style conversation. If he says something, she says something,
Yeah.
jump on in. Go ahead.
Okay. That's exactly it. Because I, in particular, would much rather have no as an answer than live in uncertainty. Like, of the 3 fears that wild courage helps you push through, fear of failure, fear of uncertainty, fear of judgment by others, for me, the one that plagues me the most and my lowercase a anxiety is fear of uncertainty. So I'd rather him be like, "Oh, thanks, I'm flattered." He goes home to his wife and kids and says, "I still got it, honey," right? And I have my answer. I'd so much rather that. Like, no skin off my back. I'd so much rather that than live not knowing. Like, Dan Pink has this research in Power of Regret where he talks about how we regret the moves we don't make much more than the moves we do make, but that don't pan out perfectly.
Yeah. And the no thing, Jenny, is like, I was afraid of no for a very long time. And actually still am. This is kind of like a hidden secret. It's the first time I've actually said this out loud. Is I do have to pump myself up every day. Everybody thinks that I'm like so extrovert all the time. Yeah, and I don't give all this stuff. But I do. And it's actually self-coaching every morning because, I don't want to hear the no. I kind of sensitive that way sometimes. And I don't say that, damn, Matt, you got me on here talking to my chest out. My goodness. And then, you have to overcome the objection. You have to do the rejection, the no, in order to get to a lot of the yeses.
Okay, there's a weird part of that. And this is offline conversation right before we started, Preston. You and I were catching up for a minute and you were talking about like sales training and just like accepting you founded this firm, you're running the organization, you're doing all the little things that have to be done, even though they're not interesting, exciting. They're not going to have romantic movies or comedies or otherwise made about them like certain train stories. What is it? Because it's that you almost have to learn to love rejection. I guess that's where I'm going with this. Is that true?
The positive spin that I put on it, which is really not so positive, but it covers up the stink a little bit, right? It's like putting on deodorant, like you don't want to take a shower. You need a full shower, but you ain't got time. So you just throw on a little deodorant. So it covers up the stink a little bit, right? And the way I see it is, okay, I got my few no's. Let's get these on out the way, right? And that means I'm closer to the yes. I know that's cliche, but that's the only way to do it. It's like, okay, cool. That person saved me some time. And I'll say this is like, when I got a no, I'd rather you give me, Jenny, I think you said uncertainty. You'd rather get, some no's. I'd rather get a no than a Luke-ass warm maybe or I'll get back to you, all this other stuff. Like, look, save me the trouble so I can put no in my CRM.
Right. Exactly. It's like, at least we know we're working with it. Or like my grandma Lila would say, She was not only a bridesmaid at the age of 88 in my wedding, but she was the CEO of a financial services company until the age of 92. Her famous line was, "No, it's just an opening offer." And I love that. And she was like, "Ooh, that means it's time to sell. Now there's a challenge." But, I felt so confident as a Google exec. I was there for 18 years. I felt like I had a reputation. I led this big program. I felt like I was doing good work. I knew the system. I was confident in that way. But then when I left to be an author and an entrepreneur, like, man, did that imposter syndrome come just raging. And when I was promoting this book, I asked maybe 200 authors, influencers, people with big audiences on their newsletter or YouTube or, you know, LinkedIn or whatever it was, would you be kind enough to help promote this book on Pub Week? And a lot of people said yes. Some people I didn't hear back from, but one person in particular, and a very, very famous author, every single one of you would know his name if I mentioned it, not only said no, but also cut off our friendship and cut off, a multi-year long mentorship relationship because this person was upset that I had asked. And so sometimes it's not just a no. Sometimes it cuts deep, right? Like it deeply hurts. I lost a lot of sleep over it. It's still painful to think that was the outcome. But if you think about Annie Duke's work, Thinking in Beds, it's not my decision that was flawed to ask this person and ask all other 200 people. It was the outcome of the decision that wasn't ideal. And when you distinguish those two, it makes you even more bold to keep asking.
Okay. I've got a question for you, Jenny, and it's no and it's rejection in this framework. You have this negative traits framework. If you want to spool off all of them: weird, selfish, shameless, obsessed, nosy, manipulative, brutal, reckless, and bossy, which I think is fantastic. But how does no fit into this? And it's not that story you just said, because we've all felt it.
Yeah.
We've all gotten shut down like that.
Yeah, well, this would be the shameless trait, which is the courage to stand behind your efforts and abilities. It's finding your swagger. It's having a little bit of audacity to maybe, you've got to read the room, of course, right? So this was a very clear negative outcome. I did not go back to this person and ask, well, are you sure? Do you want to promote it on Twitter instead of your newsletter, right? Like, you have to read the room. But in other cases, no is an opening offer means that maybe I pitched it incorrectly, or maybe I am asking for too much. Like I did email 300 companies and say, are you open to buying, 1 to 200 bulk copies of Wild Courage? And then when I didn't hear back from a certain number of them, maybe the first 100 I didn't hear back. And I thought that the checks would just be, rolling in by that afternoon. The mailman was going to have to come knock on my door because my mailbox was so full with all these checks written out but for bulk sales of the book. But that didn't exactly happen. So in that case, you use it to tweak. Failure is just data. So in that case, I then tweaked the subject line. Rather than, are you open to buying 1 to 200 books? I tweaked it to, are you open to buying 50 books? Rather than writing in, 4 paragraphs of what I could offer the company, I wrote 3 quick bullets of what I could offer the company if they did a bulk purchase and I came in to do a fireside chat. So even when you get these no's, like when I say no is just an opening offer, sure, sometimes you let it go. But then other times you use that information to tweak and to adjust your pitch so that you can get to more yeses, as Dr. Preston said.
Yeah. All right, Preston. So she's talking about no in the context of being shameless. Yeah. And I want to hear what you have to say about no and the feeling of no in that 6A system. So admit, acknowledge, act, align, aspire, achieve.
Yeah.
Where's no fit into that?
Being honest with oneself. I mean, so the 6A's is about I call it the emotional HSA instead of the health HSA. It's honest self-audit. And I got that kind of theme. Actually, everything is stolen from somewhere. Even Michael Jackson didn't invent the moonwalk. All right. And that's a lead in to the Michael Jackson, which is, man in the mirror or person in the mirror. And we are our own, I heard Jenny talk about imposter syndrome. The mirror is an expensive audit or or expensive tax or a wonderful audit. Either way, it helps us overcome, these imperfections, right? These imperfections that we have. And we got to polish ourselves up in the mirror. So when you acknowledge or admit where you are, that's an admission. That's an acknowledge how you feel about it. And then it cleans the palate, kind of like, water on the tongue when you're at a wine tasting, right? And then it helps you take the action. And if you're not honest, and if you don't say what I call a Whitney Houston, I call it the hell to the nah, you say the no, right? If you don't, You got to be able to say, don't lie to yourself. No, that's a no, right? And then you can get to the yeses of yourself, because yourself is the greatest compoundable asset you will ever have.
That's interesting, because when you talk about the role of you and yourself and pushing past that fear of rejection, to me, that is the most profound thing anybody could recognize. Because in coaching, tens of thousands of Googlers, non-Googlers, executive, non-executives across all industries, I have found that there is a specific theme that comes up when people feel stuck. It is not lack of talent or skill or money or network. It is always within them. It is their own fear. It is their own roadblocks. And if they can push past that fear to the joy and success on the other side, they are just setting themselves up for tremendous success and living into their own full potential. So I love where you landed there, where it really does start with you and how you perceive yourself, and doing that audit and looking in the mirror and recognizing, what stories am I telling myself that are self-limiting beliefs?
Yeah.
Preston, you got something to say about stories?
Of course. I wanted to piggyback though. Deion Sanders,
Please.
love the dude, right? And he has his famous line. It's look good, play good, play good, pay good, right? So it's personal preference the way folks want to dress or look or present themselves. Like when I walk through the airport nowadays, and especially in the States, I'm like, damn, when do we get all these hobos? I mean, where'd this come from? Because when you go to Italy and travel like that, people they just dress differently. It's like some self-respect in the morning. And for me, look, I'm fully dressed right now. I don't do the Flintstones, socks and sandals and everything right there. I'm fully dressed because you know what? I want to feel good. We're talking about self. I want to look good so I can play good on the podcast, and then my pay is good, right? It's about that self.
That's great. And like, again, if we're doubling down on the shameless trait of the 9, it is all about confidence. And that does start with how you look, how you feel, or what you tell yourself, the what I call the truths and tales. Truths are verifiable facts. This microphone is black. This balloon that my son put on my desk is blue. But what are the tales? What are the stories I'm telling myself? Like before we started this podcast, I said, it's 1 p.m. in Boulder. I haven't had lunch yet. Can I scarf, 10 bites of cottage cheese while you tell me about your audience? But then the story I told myself was, I'm delaying you. I'm being rude. I'm being inconsiderate. It's incredible what one truth. I haven't eaten lunch. I need to get some nutrition in my body so I can have, cogent answers when you ask me. And then the tale I tell myself on top of that, which is more hurtful.
All right, Preston, I want you to break this down too, because you know what this is. These are these limiting, these ideas, these limiting beliefs, and then all the stuff that happens in people's heads when you get the initial thing, but then it triggers all this other stuff.
Yeah.
What's the psychology there?
The psychology there is you have to go through the process of doing on your own self-work, because you can't be of service unless you've done service upon yourself or within yourself. You have to do your own self-care. You have to have your own, it has to be a courageous, audit. And so we talked about the no, right? And once you've been through a process, writing stuff down, texting ain't gonna do it. That's why I need to get the Remarkable, shameless plug to Remarkable. I need to get paid for that. But I have stuff written everywhere. And writing it down, transferring that energy, asking yourself questions why, Jenny was asking all those questions, right? Those self-reflective questions, and then putting pen to paper, because there's nothing like the feeling within your body transferring through a pen and hitting that paper and seeing your emotions and your thoughts on that paper. And you continually being honest with oneself, it's never over, and you're having this process so you can come to your career, your place of business, you're everywhere, and be full and present. And then you can be healthy enough to help others. But you have to go through the process.
All right. And I'm asking this partly because you're so well dressed and I'm wearing my Pierogi Fest t-shirt from the other weekend right now.
Hey, pierogies, you got to support, man.
We will always represent pierogies in this household. My wife and I have matching shirts from this thing, and we're unashamedly wearing them. But okay, so Jenny, this is another thing that you talk about that I really love and I want Preston to hear about. talk about being weird too. And the importance of being weird and sort of embracing like, yeah, I don't need to always show up all buttoned up for stuff because this is how I like to live my life. What is weird as you describe it?
Yeah. Weird is the courage to stand out, because within your so-called weirdness, quote unquote, lie your greatest strengths. So hone every ounce of weird you've got, because back on the savannah, sure, you needed to stay safe, stay small. You didn't want to stick your neck out, right? You might be a lion's lunch. But in today's modern world of 8 billion interconnected people, where people are trying to make a buck or upsell a customer or get promoted, the world's too big and competitive for anything but audacious to make a dent, for anything but standing out, right? Maybe it's respectfully disagreeing with your manager when everybody else is nodding their head along, right, in the team meeting. Maybe it's feeling that it's weird to share a testimonial from a happy customer with your prospective client if you're an entrepreneur. And that might feel weird, but it's actually really helpful. And even if it feels uncomfortable or like something that not everybody's doing, you can do it your own way. You can run your business your own way. You can have creative pricing. You can, partner in different ways that are unusual or creative. And you don't have to just go with what everybody else is doing. And it's really about not just kind of the on a poster, bring your authentic self to work. It really is about being bold enough to stand out.
Yeah, I agree with that 100 million percent. There was this, so The Wire, right? It was The Wire, yeah. So Isaiah Washington, he's got the famous line. He does it in every one of his movies. And he's like, she, he's got all the eyes of these, right? Bunk, right?
Our man Bunk.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm with you 100%, Jenny. It's like when somebody says something crazy, I'm like, shit, that ain't it. That ain't it. Not on. We got to do something else, because folks are looking for fresh perspectives, and like you said, I think authentic self. I think I'm gonna do a post called let's name 10 words we can do without for a little bit, and I think authentic self is one of them. But I mean, because just be you. I mean, I get it, the authentic nature of it, and I'm all for it, But just bring the courage. I like your word. Have the courage, and I got that from my dad. My dad is one of the most courageous person I know, because he walks into the room, he's like, hey, this is it. You either gonna like this or you're not.
Right. And so he just owned his flavor of weird. And I think that's fantastic. I have a bunch of executive coaching clients. I was meeting with someone just before this call. That's why I needed to scarf some cottage cheese, before we started recording. And all she wanted was permission. All she wanted permission was permission to advance her agenda, to get, herd all these cats, these different stakeholders, to hit this deadline of October 1st. And it's like she needed permission to be weird. She needed permission to take up space. She needed permission to go against the grain. She needed permission to say, hey, I think we should do the customer feedback testing this way, which is a faster, more unusual way to do it than the standard way. Like, she needed permission to be weird, or to go against the grain, or to have an opinion, or to have a perspective. But that's what future leaders do. No future leader, no successful entrepreneur, no person in the C-suite that's well respected gets there because they just nod and smile to everything that's being said. They dissent, they disagree, they're a tiebreaker. They do it respectfully, they do it thoughtfully, they do it articulately, but they do it in a way that lets them stand out and lets them be known and lets them be seen as a future leader.
Yeah. Permission is the word I heard too. And a lot of folks are living for. I just was on Reddit. Love me some Reddit sometimes. It can get a little crazy on there. But this dude, it was a dude too. You could tell. I don't think any woman would do this, but he got on the Reddit. And he was like, "Oh yeah, so I got $28 million saved up." Right? I'm like, okay, you start off with a humble brag. That's really not that humble, right? And I got 28 million. I make $600,000 a year, so on and so forth. My identity's at my job, and this, that, and the other. Is it time for me to go? Like, it's time to go. I mean, what are you doing?
Right.
Why are you asking for permission? So you want the Reddit community to come in here and give you all this permission? And this is some of the things I talk about in the book. People ask me, they're like, well, what is wealth in the key of life? And I mean, first of all, Stevie Wonder's, songs in the key of life. I mean, that's number one. Number two, it's a book of permissions. It's giving you the permission to be bold at work, live your wealth your own way. If you want to get a fancy car or a watch or something, whatever it is, that's your purview. You know what they say at the airline? They come in there and they say, like, keep your eye on your own luggage. Hey, look, mind your own damn business, right? You don't need permission to be you, right?
Yeah, with that reminds me of the reckless trait of the 9 traits of wild courage. It's the courage to err on the side of action and take intelligent risks, because honestly, better to learn from your mistakes than to waste time predicting the outcome of every possible decision. Think fast and fearless, and if you're on the fence, do it. And I actually identify with that guy on Reddit who said, I have $28 million. Should I stay or should I go? I do not have $28 million. However, I understand the feeling of maybe knowing in your heart something is right for you, maybe knowing in your gut something is right for you, but still wanting to collect all the possible data, do all the pro-con lists. I am a left-brain thinker. I studied economics in university, and man, was it hard for me to leave Google, my executive position that was very lucrative, and I'm the breadwinner for my family, and it still took me, Dr. Preston, 18 months of going back and forth, back and forth. I never posted on Reddit. I never got the wisdom of the crowds, but man, did I annoy my husband, my best friends, my therapist, like my board of advisors, mentors, bosses, trying to decide, should I stay or should I go? When I knew in my heart it was probably time for me to go. I'd been at Google 18 years, but it still feels scary to be reckless. It feels scary to err on the side of action. It feels scary to learn from your mistakes, even though we know intellectually that is what creates a big, rich, fulfilling, successful life. It's hard when we're in that spot. And I'm telling you, I gave myself lots of reasons to go back and forth, and I should have just pulled the trigger sooner.
Yeah, look, your word should have, right? And to where you arrived. Should. I don't like the word should. It's unless you're using it internally upon oneself, right? But I got this from somewhere. I think it was one of my mentors. He goes, "Nobody likes to be should on." I'm like, right?
Yeah, my mom used to say
Right.
that.
Nobody likes to be shut on, and it's wise to get, mentorship, guidance, seek wisdom. I mean, because even though the answer may be just hanging on our last breath, we still, that's the uncertainty. I mean, we're nobody's, I even hate saying that. I don't like saying nobody's perfect. No shit. Nobody's perfect. Right. But, seeking out that wisdom, you may not be wanting to seek, maybe not seeking permission, although some are, but seeking guidance and wisdom is very much smart to get different perspectives to help you work through something so you can get to something.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think, well, go ahead, Matt.
No, I'm going to ask you the exact same question. I think you're already on your way to answering with this.
Well, I think it goes back to the self versus the other, right? I think that sometimes we need a certain number of advisors, and I've risked having too many advisors. Like, I don't need to be talking to 20 people. That's just me being scared, right?
Mastermind.
My favorite. Yeah, right, exactly. Some of my favorite research is by Barry Schwartz, a psychologist at Swarthmore University, who has this really beautiful body of work, great TED Talk called The Paradox of Choice. I think when I invite 20 different opinions in, that is probably giving myself the paradox of choice, and that's a signal that I'm just scared to pull the trigger. But let's say I'm smarter about it. I ask 3 or 4 people for their opinion so I don't overwhelm myself with the paradox of choice. I, again, am oftentimes the blocker. It's people, I might have 5 out of 5 people say, Jenny, you've been at Google 18 years. Are you experiencing step function learning or incremental learning? If it's not step function, then it's probably time to go learn something new. And yet I still am the one who, because of the fear of uncertainty, failure, and judgment by others, still am not able to pull the trigger. But eventually I did, of course.
Eventually you did. And it's in that self versus other thing. I want to pull you one more step function on this path here, Jenny.
Sure.
This idea of wisdom, maybe not the masterminds, but when we look to other people, it's almost conservative in the way that it makes us feel safe.
For sure.
But rarely do we get the advice of go be more weird or go be more weird and how. I know you have thoughts on this. I know you have some tactics about this too, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, in this specific situation, one tactical tool I have is, how do you know when it's time to flip roles or flip projects or flip companies? FLIP, fun, learning, impact, and personal. Are you having fun, or are you rolling your eyes in your team meeting thinking, oh, tried that 6 quarters ago, that's never going to work? That could be a reason to leave wherever you are. Learning, we talked about this, step function learning or incremental learning. incremental you're going to feel in most companies because it's a fast-paced world. AI is here. That makes everything kind of spicy and interesting. But step function learning is when you've got some butterflies in your stomach because you've got emails in your inbox that you don't know how to answer. That's the real step function learning where you feel scared and then you have to overcome that fear to really learn something new and big and bold. I is impact. What's your business impact? Because what moves the business is what moves your career. So tap into what your performance scores are, or what your customers are saying, or how much money you're making if you're an entrepreneur. And then P is what's going on in your personal life, right? I think that can play a role as well. And that helps you tap into your weird and whether it's time to go do something weird and different that's maybe not the standard path. Walk yourself through that flipped framework.
Yeah.
There's so many acronyms in this. I'm going to fall out of my chair in a minute. But that's what I was expecting. I saw Preston's face when you said flip.
Yeah.
And rattled those off. And I think the pen's out.
Yeah.
I think the pen is out.
The pen is out. Well, I love what alliteration, right, and acronyms. Although there's a chapter in a book where I start off and it says there's too many damn acronyms out there because be real. It is true. Like we're all guilty of it. It's like, how can I make myself more smart, come up with my own stuff. It's like, yeah, you basically just came up with an acronym for baking a cake, but it's this, right? But yeah, I'm gonna throw mine in there as opposed to jambalaya and nod to, my Texas, Louisiana roots. But yeah, the 5 Ps, right? So we've got purpose, plan, preference, person, and points of life allow you to have prosperity. And we're talking a lot about self in this conversation. And everybody has uniqueness. There's another, word. It's like word bingo we're doing right now. Bingo, I've heard that before. But purpose and person, preferences. And my dad says all the time, he's like, listen, son, he said, you don't have to worry about what everybody else is doing over there. Keep your blinders on like a horse. And because most things in life are personal preference. And people are going to go about making their choices. They're going to go about leaving their job, staying at their job. They're going to go about how they go about their money, all that by, putting in the ingredients of who am I? Who's the purpose? Who's the person? What's my purpose, right? What's my preferences? And then what stage of life am I in? Because some things in my 20s didn't appeal to me. Now I'm 46. It's not going to appeal to me when I'm hopefully 86. I'll probably be dead by then, right? But then it all goes into your plan, and then that's when the stuff, the meal really gets cooking.
I love what you're saying about stage of life because I guide people to play to win, WINN, what I need now. And there's this wonderful story about Claire Torrey. She was a session singer for Pink Floyd. And a session singer is someone who's paid a very small fee to come in and do some vocals, some backup vocals on a track. So she got a 30-pound fee in the UK to sing backup vocals for a song on the Dark Side of the Moon album. The Great Gig in the Sky is the name of the song. She leaves, she collects her money. She doesn't even know that the song has made the album or that her vocals have made the album until she finds out after the fact. The album goes platinum 14 times over, and she's not even given a songwriting credit, even though she's got these legendary vocals. Like if you know the song, the entire song is her kind of scatting. It's this wordless vocalization that makes the song what it is. And so her stage of life at that point, Dr. Preston, for what you were just saying, was what do I need now? Well, I need to sue Pink Floyd for a songwriting credit and also XYZ amount of money. And then Pink Floyd, what they needed now was to settle out of court for that undisclosed sum. So clearly she did well. But think about it, and you might be at a different stage of life when you're 22, when you're 42. What do you need now? Are you living today's dreams or yesterday's dreams? Are you trying to achieve today's goals or yesterday's goals? Are you trying to accomplish your ambitions or somebody else's? What do you need now? What is the specific thing that you need right now that is not anybody else's, that is weird, your own flavor of weird and your own flavor of reckless and shameless, so that you can achieve your greatest ambitions right now, whether it's a relationship or a friendship or building a life in a new city or getting promoted or launching a business. Play to win. What I need now, WINN.
I like that. You said something unique, which was or just timely, which is the session singer, right? And this is a key thing, Matt. I know you like music, right? So Pink Floyd had their session singers, but who had some of the greatest session singers that became like stars? Luther Vandross. Oh man, so many people sang session for him and then became solo artists. And so something about being a session singer nowadays, folks are saying, particularly young folks are like, oh, well, I don't want to go work for a company or something. I want to build my own. I don't want to build somebody else's dream and all that. And there is a lot of that going on sometimes. But first of all, most people work for somebody. So I want to get that myth out there. Everybody's like, I want to be an entrepreneur. First of all, no, you don't. And then no,
you
yeah.
don't.
Then secondly, you're not that talented. Then number three, right? And then number three, sometimes you're not building somebody else's dream. You're doing that session work to build your dream, right? Michael Jackson was in the basement, Motown, Smokey, Marvin Gaye, the list goes on, to where he was watching, then he went over to Philadelphia International, I think it was, and watched the OJs and Gamble and Huff, all that, right? You're talking about, before he hit the Motown stage and moonwalked, that man was 22 years old, right? So he had all this session work, right, to hone in on the craft, and then you can go be great.
I love that. And this does not come up nearly enough, because I think everyone's dream is to be an entrepreneur. By the way, a friend of mine is Jason Pfeiffer, editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine, and he says, if you can be anything in the world other than an entrepreneur, go be that, right? Like, I think we all agree with that. But, let's say that you are not, because I hear this all the time. Let's say this job, this session singing gig, this backup, assistant producer, whatever it is not your life's dream. But you know what? It's building the blocks. It's building the foundation. You're learning the skills. So treat it as if you are obsessed with it. Obsessed is one of the traits. It's push, perform, persist. None of the other traits of wild courage will serve you well if you don't, learn to deliver, not for some company, but to achieve your own ambitions. And so the more you're able to put into the work itself, the more you just show up, you do your vocalizations, you give it your all, you enjoy being there, you just fully put yourself into it. You're going to be happier, you're going to learn more, and then people are going to recognize your enthusiasm. I think enthusiasm is totally underrated. I think if you don't have the skills or the talent or the longevity in your career or the tenure, right, or the network, enthusiasm, positive energy is so underrated. And if you show up and you're doing good work and you're working hard and you're hitting all the right notes and you're showing up on time to that session, you are eventually going to be seen as someone who can go it on your own. But, whether it's going on your own or whether it's a promotion within your company, show up to that day job as if it is your own entrepreneurial endeavor, and think of yourself as the CEO of your own career, and show up. Don't phone it in. Don't quietly quit. I just think that's one of the best things you can do to build a long-term successful plan for yourself.
Yeah. I know you got a question, Matt, but I got to, then I'll be quick. When you have that enriched kind of process, as Jenny was talking about, and we're talking about doing that stage work and all this type of stuff, then you can go with the Motown 25. And then, because Mike said after the ABC and everything, he said, I like the old songs, but now I like the new songs, right? And he kicked everybody off the stage. You know why? Because you put that work in.
Exactly. Because it's worth it. Yeah.
All right. So this is Jenny, your point on this specifically is you changed the way I see the word manipulate. And I think about it and I see it in lots of contexts, but I think about it this one. And there's a wonderful story. Have you guys seen the Muscle Shoals documentary? Do you know this one?
I haven't seen it, but I will check it out now.
You need to see it because Otis Redding driving the limo for whatever band before he finally gets the shot in the studio, and the way that the Lynyrd Skynyrd piano player comes into the band and the whole piano and what's it called? The Freebird. That whole part is basically by accident in the studio. And because somebody manipulated the situation. Tell me about that word. What's it mean to you?
Yeah. So again, I'm reclaiming all these eyebrow raising traits to be redefined for something good. So manipulative is the courage to really tap into your ability to influence, to build lasting relationships, because no matter whether you're selling an idea, a process, a product, or yourself, your ability to win friends and allies is all about mutual benefit. So figure out what someone else wants and go get it for them. And then you both win. You're expanding the pie. You're not redividing the pie. So this could be as simple as what I call woo with you. Take a look at the last email you sent where you're trying to influence somebody to come on your podcast, Matt, or to buy your book, Dr. Preston, right? And look at how many of your sentences start with the word I. So this happened at Google once. One of the leaders who reported to me was training a client on some of our Google products, but also because we wanted to upsell them to spend more money on Google products. So the first draft was, I loved coming in and training your team. I had so much fun. I really enjoyed helping you understand our new products. I have more products I'd like to share with you. Could I come in again? And then we decided, let's woo with you, flip as many of those I statements to you statements. Your team was amazing to partner with. You are clearly passionate about helping serve your end customers. You were enthusiastic and educated enough that I think you're ready to have us, come in and train you on this other type of product. When would be good for you? So we flipped a ton of I's to use. And that's a manipulative tactic, right? We were helping them feel good. People have egos. People want to be seen as valuable, right? The number one thing that I think we all want to be is seen as, as valuable, right? I think we want to be valued as well. So that's what I mean by manipulative, right? I don't mean it with the intention to harm or to be nefarious, but if you think of an artist, takes a gray, wet lump of clay and manipulates it into something beautiful and creative. You can also, as a leader of an organization, manipulate your team into being excited and passionate about the products you're selling. You could manipulate, quote unquote, in a good way, your clients into having you back to do another product training and hopefully give you more of their money.
For sure. Yeah, no, I'm with that too. Yeah, separate people from their money. That's good stuff. Because hey, because look, we're doing it to folks because we're hopefully we're delivering value to the people to the people to serve, but also people are doing it to us too. That's why your money decisions when you're talking about where you're going to place that dollar, or receive a dollar is very important because it's an extension of, are you receiving value? Are you valued and are you delivering value? Right. And I like the word, manipulate. And also too, it just, you're, infusing the situation with the people that you're serving. I love the way, you're talking about what's your path? What do you want to do? These are some of the questions I ask my clients. What do you want to stop doing? What do you want to do to move forward, right? All right. Or I'm glad you're here. All right. It takes courage for you to take this first step. So what are the next steps? So yes, hearing you, I like you mentioned, Jenny, because Dr. King said this a lot. I mean, he had all type of stuff, but he said, I think I forgot what speech it was, but he said, everybody has an ego. And I think you mentioned this too, Jenny, but everybody has an ego. It's how you feed that ego, how do you use that ego to do life's works for the greater good? Yes, make some money, but instead of feeding the ego just to pump oneself up all the time.
Sure. Mm-hmm. That's great.
I got a few notes. I'm going to ask you a question, then we're going to play the game. Why do I want to put you here together? I'm going to you first, Jenny. I'm going with something that he said. You said somebody in your family said it too. Nobody likes to be should on. And I'm kind of curious about it in this context that we were just talking about. Like flipping to the you. How do you keep that in mind?
Yeah, well, nobody likes to be should on. I mean, it takes the pressure off, right? It is in the case of flipping it to the you, it's giving somebody else the opportunity to be the hero, right? And then it takes the pressure off of you, what should you do? What should you say? What should you, am I going to hit my revenue target? It's how do I better serve the client? And I think the should is oftentimes when we put pressure on ourselves. Whereas when we do the woo with you, we flip it to what the client needs, we flip it to what the customer needs. It's less shoulding because it's spinning that spotlight and putting it on somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to
reflect.
Yeah, here's a little thing is, should is a lot of times judgmental, and we don't have enough information to pass judgment on others. That's external shoulding, right? But when
can get very, very messy.
Yeah, it can, right? Right. Well, like so many ways we can go with that, but we'll leave it.
Yeah, please.
No,
Leave that
I got it. But internal shoulding though, which is this. Yes, sometimes shame. We're trying to avoid that in public now, and it's very popular now. So don't shame folks. But when you're talking about internal shoulding and internal shame, it's that translates to accountability. It's, have you made the initial steps to admit that this is not where you want to be and acknowledge how you feel about it, and then going and saying, look, I want to take this action. Now you're saying, did I do what said I was going to do? You should have done that. Right? Now you can't hold on to guilt forever, But the internal shoulds and sometimes internal shame is a little healthy in order for you to, work through and to where you want to get.
Yeah, like I just yelled at my kids. I shouldn't do that next time, right? A little bit of is like that, oh, like, it helps you be a better person next time, but you have to treat it so that it serves you, but then let it go.
We moved into this house right when I was in high school, and we get like my brother and I are about to get our first 3 boys growing up in the house. So you know what that's like already. We're about to get our first room for the first time. So we run upstairs. We're getting the 3rd floor. It's like a converted attic. And my brother beats me up the stairs, younger brother, mind you. But he beats me up the stairs. He goes to the back. I'm like, all right, I'm cool at the front of the house. Like, I like this. We each have a split side. And he comes out. He's like, I think I picked the wrong room. I'm like, why? Brings me in. He closes the door and he points to the frame of the door. And on the frame of the door, laminated into the wood, because this is a house from like the 30s or the 40s, is this newspaper clipping. Mind you, we're in the attic of a house that up to this point in the 90s has shag carpeting through the entire thing. And laminated into the wood is this newspaper clipping that says, beat your children once a day. If you don't know what they did wrong, they do.
That's a good one.
But we were like, what happened in this room? I was like, good luck sleeping tonight, buddy. Shut the door, walking out.
I would like to share, our basement does have brown shag carpeting in this moment, 2025, and brown wood panel walls in our basement. But no epitaphs of beating your children.
You got pans in the drawer and under the oven. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know that's supposed to be a bread warmer, right? I never knew that.
No, but that's this pan storage area, and that's where the big ones go. That's where the big ones go.
Unless you live in Manhattan, and then it's where you store your sweaters.
Yes, exactly. But you want to keep those warm too, right? Extra closet space.
Cold winter days.
All right, we're playing the game. I'm skipping over. I was going to ask about Grandma Lila again, but we're not getting there today. I want to know, why does Dr. Preston Cherry need to meet Jenny Wood? I wrote something down, which is inevitably wrong because I write it before we do this interview. Preston, you go first. Why do you think I wanted you to meet Jenny?
Wow. There's so much overlap. I mean, it was hard to disagree. I mean, I know nowadays you got to say things with your full chest and you got to disagree with somebody and be divided in order to, get some entertainment. But dang, we agreed on so much. I mean, I heard, the need or not the need for permission, courageous, being bold, audacious, right? Just having aspirations, making decisions that are in your best interest, that are not harmful for others, but also, build yourself up. I love all these themes, living an aspirational life. Your best version is your best asset. And I haven't met Jenny. This is my first time. We're vibing. This is a good pairing, because those are some of the overlapping things that I heard and we talked about today. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm glad I'm talking with you today, Jenny, because we got some overlapping and not necessarily overlapping, but we're strengthening up the themes that we're talking about. And 2 is better than 1.
2 is better than 1. It takes 2 to make a thing go right. Jenny, what do you think? Why do you want to pair you today?
Well, I love how you take what I teach in Wild Courage and you break it down to what's going on within yourself, because it is so much about your own internal locus of control, your own internal desire to push past the fear, your own internal schema that you put on yourself, right? So all of your frameworks and all of your ways that you look at, well, where do you take responsibility? Or your father, right? Walking into a room and being comfortable taking up space, or just separating, what you should be thinking when someone tells you no versus what you can push past and continue on your path of success. So agree that there's just a lot of stuff that overlaps and a slightly different angle, right? Slightly different ways we see the world, but very complementary.
Absolutely.
Well, we're here for the angles. Yeah, I got to reveal. This is what I said. Yeah. I said, some like to play it hot. We didn't even get to play it hot. I don't believe this. Some like to play it hot, and you both manipulate balance for the better. I love that balance aspect and the manipulation. Preston, people want to find more. They want to bug you online. They want to read the book. Everybody should get a copy of Preston's book. Where should they look you up these days?
Yes. So my personal website is drdrprestoncherry.com. And that Dr. Preston Cherry is all my social handles, all the socials. And then concurrentfp.com for the company. I appreciate you having me. And Jenny, it was a pleasure meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.
Jenny, same question. Everybody go out and get the book. This really is fantastic. Both of these books have so many useful acronyms that I swear if you're in management anywhere and you want to give a bunch of people things that they should listen to and sound really smart, have a field day. Jenny, they want to bug you. Where should they find you on the internet?
Sure. You can bug me at itsjennywood.com, itsjennywood.com. And you can pick up the book anywhere books are sold, hard copy, audiobook, ebook. Yeah, I do keynote speaking, one-on-one coaching, and would love to hear from you.
Fantastic. Jenny, Preston, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. You're watching Just Press Record on Cultish Creative YouTube, and we are. Thanks for joining us. Like, comment, and hey, subscribe below to Cultish Creative on YouTube if you haven't already. As the good compliance people want me to remind you, Matt Zeigler, that's me, is a managing director at Sunpoint Investments. The opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Sunpoint Investments. No information on this podcast should be construed as investment advice. Securities discussed in the podcast may be holdings of clients of Sunpoint Investments. I hope you've been entertained. I hope you found this useful. I hope you talk to a professional before you try any of this stuff at home. And most of all, I hope you've subscribed. Be nice to each other out there. And don't forget, head over to cultishcreative.com and let's make curiosity a habit together. And I'm out.